I really do just want to extend my very deep and heartfelt condolences on the loss that occurred during the production of American Made. It must be the worst thing for a director to have to deal with while making a film.
It was really tragic, and I only knew Alan. I didn't know the other pilot, but he was an extraordinary pilot in person, and it's a reminder of how dangerous flying a small airplane really is.
Yeah, and you had Tom Cruise actually doing that during the production, so it must have been very nerve-wracking for you.
Tom Cruise is such a perfectionist, especially when it comes to safety. So he was training all available moments for the action sequences in the film. You know, he does his own stunts, and he doesn't do it lightly. He takes it really seriously.
Congratulations, Doug Liman, on this thrilling, funny, guilty pleasure of a film. Is that a fair description?
Yeah, I love that you call it a guilty pleasure.
This is a film that does invite people to essentially like an unlikable character and also to feel complicit in his various deeds. Was that the draw for you, the moral murkiness of what he's up to?
Yeah, well, I am drawn to anti-heroes, and in particular, I was drawn to Barry Seal's, just unapologetic rule-breaking and pursuit of opportunity. And there's something so quintessentially American about that, but it's also, for better or for worse, it's how I've chosen to lead my life, and so I really respected and appreciated a character like Barry Seal for his willingness to really go way outside the norms.
I really have to ask you about that wonderful phrase, quintessentially American, because I'd like you to just unpack what you mean by that. At the moment, we have in Washington a perfect example of what you might be talking about, where someone wants their cake and eat it as well.
Well, I was shooting a film called Jumper in Japan, and I came to understand that one of the cultural differences was that for me, to shoot a movie on the streets of Japan, you have to break the law. In the streets of Tokyo, you have to break the law, which we did in the making of Jumper, and we got away with it. And for me, that was the line. Did you get away with it, or didn't you get away with it? And for our Japanese co-producers, for them, the line was, did you break the law, or didn't you? And I'm like, no, it's irrelevant whether or not you broke the law. What's relevant is, did you get caught? And they had a different way of looking at it. And from that moment on, I've sort of thought about my own upbringing as an American, and that for me as an American, it's whether you got away with it or not. That's the relevance, and Barry Seal got away with it.
And as one of the characters says in the film, I think when Barry asks, is this legal, the response is, it is when you're doing it for the good guys.
Yeah, he goes on to say, just don't get caught, and that kind of sums up the philosophy that has gotten many a government in trouble of being above the law. As long as you do it for us, whatever you're doing is legal.
Or wasn't it Richard Nixon said, if the president does it, then it's not illegal?
Yeah, and I was really interested in, because it's not my first time doing a movie about the CIA, and I was really interested in exploring the relationship between the CIA and the assets and pilots they recruit. Because the employees of the CIA, like Donald Gleason, go to Ivy League schools. They are part of a system and they follow the rules. In fact, the CIA selects for people who are innate rule followers. But those people are then sent out into the field to recruit people like Barry Seal, and they're looking for qualities that are rule-breaking qualities. They're looking for people they think, have loose moral compasses who will easily break the law on behalf of the CIA. And when they hire somebody like Barry Seal, when they recruit somebody like Barry Seal, that's who they get. They went looking for somebody who would break the law, and they got somebody who would break the law. They got way more than they wished for. And I was really, I thought that was it's a real dynamic that plays out daily, not just at the CIA, but at other intelligence services across the world. But it's an odd couple relationship that I thought would be really fun to explore, specifically because it's a true thing that happens on a regular basis.
It certainly seems to be happening almost on a daily basis with the headlines that are coming out of the White House at the moment. Did you have any idea how much this movie in terms of the values you've just spoken about, resonate with what's going on right now?
I think American Made is more relevant now than we maybe anticipated it being when we set out to make it. And, it's also, the events portrayed are so outrageous in American Made that you could start to question, did these things really happen? Or were they as funny or as outrageous as they seem? But I have a feeling today people aren't going to be quite as skeptical. Could Washington really have done this? Could these things really have happened out of Washington, D.C.? In today's climate, our story in some ways feels positively tame.
That's remarkable. Doug, can you just clarify for us? The film is based on actual events and on an actual character, yet at the end of the movie, we see the standard disclaimer saying that the film is fictitious and that you're not meant to draw any inferences from people living or dead. Can you just tell us what's going on there? Did you know about that? What's that paragraph doing at the end of the movie?
I never thought about that. That goes on every movie. You didn't pick up on the fact that it points out that we know that that's not El Salvador.
Yes.
But it's, Lucy Seal in the movie is a composite of Barry had more than one wife. So Debbie Seal is the wife who participated with us, and we really were inspired by that relationship. And in particular, Debbie Seal showed us a photo of her visiting Barry in jail in Guatemala. It was a chapter of his story that, we briefly tell, but he was jailed more than once, and, we moved it to Colombia for sort of efficiency of storytelling. But she showed us a photo of him in jail in Guatemala, and she's visiting him with a birthday cake, and she has a giant machete, and she's cutting the birthday cake in the middle of this jail with all of these other prisoners around him, like the scene he's in Colombia. And that really was the foundation for that relationship for Tom and myself and for Sarah Wright, was that photo. This woman who would, leave Louisiana and head down to Guatemala to visit him in prison, bring him a birthday cake and cut it with a machete. But we're like, we want to see that relationship. We want to figure out how that plays out. But we ended up naming the character Lucy Seal instead of Debbie Seal so that there could be other aspects that we could pull from his other relationships to augment it. And so that's how you end up with a disclaimer like that. But obviously, there's real footage of Reagan in the movie, and it's not altered in any way. So, I'm not sure what the disclaimer like that is saying when the real people.
Can you just tell us just a bit more about Tom Cruise's commitment to the film and commitment to the role?
Tom is an extraordinary collaborator because And one of the reasons I was so passionate about working with him on this film is that he's not just an actor. Steven Spielberg said of Tom Cruise, he's the greatest director not currently directing. So I knew he would be an incredible partner in collaborating on the action sequences with the airplanes because he's a pilot and I'm a pilot, and we're both interested in creating thrilling sequences for audiences and sequences unlike anything you've ever seen before. And so I knew he'd be an amazing partner in terms of figuring that out, and he's the kind of person that people bring their A game. He makes everybody's A game better, and I knew he would make my A game better. But also, he's an extraordinary actor. In this era when people are famous for being famous, Tom Cruise is famous because of Risky Business and because of Taps and Jerry Maguire and Top Gun. He's famous because he's a great actor and a great comedian, and as the world seems to know now, he's also an extraordinary stuntman. If he were not working as an actor, he probably would be the #1 stuntman in the world. And it's not ego, I need to do the stunt myself so I can tell the world I did the stunt myself. It's because he's great. And when it came to the flying sequences in American Made, he was training months out. We shared a house and we were making the movie. He had a flight simulator in the basement. He was training every weekend. The meetings and safety meetings and collaboration meetings and brainstorming meetings, there was, every waking moment that we weren't spent on other aspects of the film were spent, figuring out the flying, because we were going to do sequences no one had ever filmed before. And no one's ever made a movie before where your lead actor is the one flying the airplane. You might have picked that up in the credits too, that he is the only pilot of the Aerostar and the Cessna. He trained to fly those planes, and he's the only one flying them in the movie.
Given that your experience and that you've been around the block a couple of times, just the era of cinema that we're living in at the moment. On the one hand, we're seeing visions undreamt of before, which are absolutely wonderful and mind-bending and just terrific. At the same time, we're living in an era where a studio will spend $200 million on a film that turns out to be complete crap. Just, can you bring your experience to bear to tell us where you think cinema is going and what the shape of American cinema is at the moment?
You know, I think it's in a pretty good place. I mean, you know, the people I've met at the various studios want to make great movies. They want to make movies like American Made. They have to make some of those other movies, you know, to pay the bills, but they want to make movies like American Made. And they want movies like American Made to work. And, you know, and Tom Cruise and I felt, we always feel a responsibility to our audiences. You know, both Tom and I. I mean, I don't think there's any actor working today who's more committed to his fans than Tom Cruise and doesn't think about them every day. Even when we're making a movie, he thinks about how the movie's going to play in different markets when it's translated. You know, so he's not just thinking about American audiences, he's thinking about audiences around the world. But you make a film like American Made, you're also thinking about your studio executives and other filmmakers, and you feel a responsibility that when a studio goes out on a limb and makes a film, a big original movie like American Made, that if it succeeds, they'll have the ability to make more movies like that, and if it fails, it will be that much harder for the next film like American Made to get made. But the executives I've met want to make more movies like American Made, and they're smart. It's up to the audiences to reward the studios when they go out on a limb and make something that's smart and original.